Welcome to the Present Fathers Podcast. This is the show that focuses on climbing the mountain of fatherhood together. Our mission is to help fathers be present by sharing valuable ideas and concepts that will equip men to be the best father possible. Being a good father is hard work, but it is so vitally important. We believe that dads matter, and that's why this podcast is for you. So gear up, dads, and get ready. It's time to start climbing.
Alrighty, hello and welcome to this episode of the Present Fathers Podcast. I'm George, and I'm here with my dad, Steve, and Brandon. We got the whole gang together. Brandon, Justin, and Dustin are also here with me finally. Sorry I had to miss the last one. I was just crazy work travel, but we're back, and I brought my dad with me. So, in this episode, we're going to kind of actually get into the topic of divorce. But before we kind of got into that, we wanted to just kick around a little bit, get an update from everyone, and then we'll kind of have a little fireside chat here with my dad. So, Brandon, you had a really good story from something that just happened for you and your family recently. So why don't you lead with that?
Sure. Yeah. So went to my best friend's wedding. I was in the wedding, got to see him get married with his longtime girlfriend, Yin. And had a really good time. We did a lot of good sightseeing in DC. Got to see all the monuments and do the space museums and all that stuff, which my kids, they're huge fanatics of like NASA and all that stuff. So got to see all that and got into Nashville just in time for our ICE event at the Gaylord Opryland Hotel. And so one of the cool things was we were going through it and we saw a family. And of course, my wife, not knowing a stranger in the world, she got, buddy with the mom, and the kids were all playing and having a good time. And I noticed the dad had a photographer following him, but, I knew he was kind of somebody I knew, like he had a familiar face, like he was almost famous, but, I didn't want to bother him. He was, having family time and stuff. So once we got out of the event and we got into the gift shop, I asked him if he was, if he was somebody I knew. And he said, yeah, I'm a singer. And he ended up being the lead singer of Florida Georgia Line. So we got to experience the ICE event, kind of a VIP with the lead singer of Florida Georgia Line. So it was a cool little experience, just kind of a small world happenstance thing. And had a great time. So we had
Awesome.
A good trip and just kind of recouping now. So
that's pretty funny that you just happened to be doing it at the same time as him and whatnot. So
yeah, definitely got the money's worth. So
huh?
I got your money's worth.
Yeah. And if you ever are, just for anyone out there, if you ever are in Nashville in the wintertime, that is definitely a huge, like, young kid event. It's, they make all these crazy ice sculptures and you walk through it and it's really cool. So awesome. Justin, how about you? I know you were kind of joining him for the wedding and everything, right?
Yeah, man. Oh, sorry.
That sums it up, right?
That pretty much sums it up. So I went through 10 states, 2,300 miles driven, and probably 1,200 flown in the last 2 weeks. It's been a lot of moving, man. Yeah. I went to Chicago. My company had us up there for some training on some different products and some other stuff. We were there for the week, came back. My wife was in Tampa. She was leaving as I was getting in. And I got to have a boys' night or two with my son, and partied hard. It was a good time. Now we had a good weekend, and my wife got back Sunday. She kind of had some rest days, honestly. And Wednesday, I drove from here to Tupelo to my parents' house, picked them up, drove to Nashville, met with Brandon and his wife and his kiddos. We went to dinner, stayed the night, drove to DC the next day. Went to Harold. He's also, just backstory, Harold has been my best friend since kindergarten. I brought him home when we were kids, and he's been our brother ever since. So got to DC, did the wedding, and then the next morning drove to High Point, North Carolina for my cousin Laura's wedding. She married a gentleman named Evan. He's a hunter. He's a country boy. I like him. He's perfect for our family. My Uncle Jerry, God rest his soul, he would have loved Evan. So it was a beautiful wedding. Stayed till 8:30. Got on the road, did shifts with my dad, slept while he drove, vice versa. Drove from High Point to Atlanta to Birmingham to Tupelo. Got in at 3:30 in the morning, slept till 9. Got on the road, drove 6.5 hours to Lafayette, Louisiana, and then I have been just nonstop since I got back with clients, work.
Yeah.
It's been a lot, but it's been great. We got set up for Christmas, as you can see the Christmas tree.
I was about to say you've committed the cardinal sin of prior to Thanksgiving.
No, that is not a cardinal sin. It is my son's first Christmas, and you better bet your butt I'm gonna put him everything out there and just show him what's up, because we are a Christmas family. My wife loves her favorite's Thanksgiving, but I'm one of those people. I want the cheer as long as I can have it, and the lights. I'm a freak for it. So
it does look pretty good as your backdrop, I must say. So.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's
I'm just betting
a little bit more festive than my little plain wall back here. So
I'm taking bets on how long it's going to take your kid to crawl over there and pull that tree down, because he just started crawling. Just for those that don't know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. And he's not just crawling, he's crawling over us, and he's standing by himself now. And I'm like, having a little mini panic attack. No, he's great. We're really excited. We're gearing up for some friends to come over. We're having a big baby shower for some friends. Things are good, man. I cannot complain. Life's coming quick, and I'm finally getting some rest. The last bit of travel I'm doing for the next few months is going to see the family again for Thanksgiving.
Very cool.
That'll be nice, but yeah,
good deal.
That's it, man.
Awesome. Dustin, how about you, man? How are the last couple weeks?
And I'm with you guys. If you can't put up that stuff until after Thanksgiving, so we're gonna wait till next week, and then we'll put up the tree and all that kind of stuff. So Justin, you're breaking the rules, man. You're too soon.
I'm a rebel, brother. You know that.
So we got hit hard by Hurricane Nicole.
Okay.
And, yeah, she came in hard and fast. I hadn't slept through, I tried to sleep. We didn't sleep at all. I guess it wasn't really a hurricane. It was a category whatever storm, but it was nasty. And they locked us in at the hospital. So we had a couple days there where it was just nonstop, any kind of stuff that came in, we had to be there for it. Because of course you still have people in the hospital who are sick and need surgery. Yeah. So we were in there making sure they were getting taken care of. So that was my hurricane time, was hanging out and, making sure all those patients were good. But it was crazy hearing the wind, and, man, Nicole came in and gave us quite a blowjob. I was pretty impressed with that setup. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
It's really funny. Oh,
man. Dustin's like, hey, Nicole, go night-night. Go night-night.
Yeah.
Don't say it. I gotta say it. Yeah, I gotta say it.
It's pretty funny.
You gotta say it.
That is pretty funny.
Oh man.
Trees. We had Daytona Beach just north of us got wrecked. Lots of destroyed houses. It was pretty rough. So I felt very blessed that there was some damage, but nothing too crazy. I had a lot of yard work to take care of afterwards and all that. But everyone's safe. No injuries or anything. So we made it through.
Good.
That was my excitement. Yeah, for the week.
I love you, dude.
We're glad you survived the experience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dustin's out there with an American flag, like
we're gonna get demonetized before we even start. So awesome. Okay, well, cool. We're glad that you're all safe, of course, and hopefully the rest of the area is recovering as well. So. I forgot one little announcement too. We were going to initially, I think it was announced at the end of the last episode, we'd be talking about a book called Endurance, about Shackleton's expedition to Antarctica and kind of that whole ordeal. We're kind of having to put that one on hold because just scheduling conflicts with our guests that we wanted for that episode. So that will be happening at a to be determined date yet, but probably in the next couple of weeks here, we'll get that one done. So tonight, my dad is in town, and I asked him, hey, do you want to do the podcast with us? And he said, absolutely. So, so here we go today. So quick note too, Dustin is swapping to his computer because it was doing an update, so he'll be right back. But yeah, so Dad, I guess first, why don't you just introduce yourself so that everyone kind of know a little bit about you, you know, where you live and what you do and all that kind of stuff, and then we can kind of take it from there on tonight's topic, if that's good with you.
Okay. I'm George's dad, Steve. I've known him all his life.
That never gets
so
old.
yeah,
I love that.
I was born in a log cabin that I helped my father build. You know, walked through the snow barefoot, uphill both ways to school in Wisconsin. And, you know.
Okay. Tehran.
Yeah, I was in Tehran, Iran as a child, riding the streets of Tehran, Iran in my beat up bicycle. But anyway, that's ancient history, obviously.
Well, you live in the Northwest.
I live in over the river from Portland in Vancouver, Washington. I have a window cleaning business, so I just work a man by day, and then I'm a classical musician at night and on weekends. I play French horn. Recently played in the orchestra backing up The Who.
Nice.
And you guys, please tell me you know who The Who is.
Of course, we know who The Who
is.
You need to tell your
because I was getting my yearly eye checkup recently, and that like 23-year-old technician gal, she was great. She was really knew her stuff. She was very friendly, talkative, blah blah blah. You know, I'm going from machine to the next machine to the next machine. You know. Anyway, so I noticed on your chart here you play French horn. I don't know any horn players, and so what kind of things do you do? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, 2 nights ago I played for The Who, and she's like, who's that? So I was thought, okay, I got to pull this one out. You know, I don't usually like to brag, but you know, and then so anyway, that kind of deflated me, but it was
those dang Zoomers, man.
It was a blast.
How do they not know who The Who is, man?
Yeah. So anyway.
Well, and you even were like, well, haven't you like seen CSI? You know, they use it as the theme song.
Oh yeah. You know.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point.
She did.
No clue.
Anyway,
just yeah.
So, okay.
I guess we're that old now, guys. That
we are that old.
Yeah.
That's
okay. So that was one thing.
So anyway, well.
But you also played last year for.
Well, it was like 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Played for Weird Al.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
I like some Weird Al Yankovic, man.
Too. So anyway, so yeah, I play in the ballet and the opera and Broadway shows, stuff like that. So you know, it's been a fun career. I mean, I was in Vienna, Austria, playing with the Vienna Symphony, and that's when George was born. He was born over there. So
really,
yeah,
I didn't know that.
And
you,
my other son Jacob. So anyway, so yeah. So to segue into where I'm at now, or whatever, I don't know. I'm just out here visiting. You know, I had a little downtime from my window cleaning. It slows down in the winter, and I had a little break. I just finished up an opera back in Portland, and got a few days here. So I just wanted to come out and see George and Brittany and obviously Raylan too. So
yeah,
grandpa time.
And I forgot to even talk about, like, you know, I've been traveling. I think I've traveled every single week since you guys did the last episode. I was traveling during that one, man. And I've been go with drill weekends in between. And so you got here Wednesday midday, right? Mm-hmm. So I had
afternoon.
Okay, I got a call like late last week. I got to add Dustin. Sorry. Welcome back, Dustin.
Hey, thank you. You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Cam Hook, welcome aboard.
Perfect. All right.
So I got a call like late last week, like Friday. Hey, George, you got to go to this conference, book all your stuff. And I was like, cool. Well, my dad's coming, so that's not great. But, you know, I called him up, said, no, take care of your job. So anyway, I had to really go suffer out in California at a Ritz-Carlton. It was really miserable.
So horrible.
I got to meet Brett Baer, who is actually a really good speaker. You know, he's not just like a reporter. He was really good at telling stories. He was actually really entertaining. I was laughing pretty much his whole speech.
He does a good Trump impersonation.
Oh yeah. So maybe we'll get to those at the end. Yeah. He played golf a couple times with Donald Trump when he was president, and those stories are pretty hilarious. So maybe at the end of this, when we're kind of just winding down and having some fun, I'll get into that one. But again,
God, I wish Andrew was here for that.
Oh yeah, Andrew, believe me, he would do so good. Yeah,
believe me, I'm the best.
Right. So we'll get to those at the end, but that was kind of anyway. So he got here. My wife, scrambled down, picked him up after getting Raylan from school, and then y'all had some good time without me. And then was it yesterday? Today's Friday, right? Yeah. Okay. So yesterday I flew back. First thing in the morning out of LAX, flew back, drove home. We basically immediately got changed and ready for the. We were going to a hockey game that last night, and
go Preds.
I basically got home, dropped my stuff, changed my clothes, picked Raylan up from school, right back to Nashville. So I just literally back and forth. And then we went to the Predators game, and it was probably one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. It was like the Preds started off, they scored in the first minute, like 63 seconds in. So everyone's like, yeah, like right away. And Raylan was awesome. Just losing her mind. It's their first hockey game. And then it was like a total shootout, just goal, like all over the place pretty much. So it ended 5-4. And that was a pretty awesome experience to take my daughter to her first hockey game. And it was my dad's first NHL game. So we kind of two birds one stone, but he also got to be there for it. So that was like a really cool night.
NHL is so good.
I was super exhausted, but I'm really glad we did it. It was tons of fun. But yeah, thank you. We were up in the nosebleeds, and it didn't matter. It was super fun. So. And then here we are. So now we're spending our quality time together on the podcast now, and I've rambled long enough. So I think what we'll do is, I'd asked my dad if he'd be okay, kind of talking about the topic of divorce and being a divorced dad, and kind of navigating all of those challenges, and still doing everything you can do and should be doing to maintain a relationship with your children through that. And I know that there's probably a lot of dads out there in that boat. Personally here on this podcast, we have friends, mutual friends even, that are in that boat right now. And it's a very difficult situation. And so, Dad, you've been gracious enough to be willing to kind of share a little bit about that. And, obviously I think a lot of people would love your input and perspective, and hopefully we can help give some dads out there some helpful advice, because I'm sure that, statistically, at least half the dads out there are in that boat. So, there's a high number of people that could probably benefit from it. So absolutely. I guess I'll just briefly summarize so we can kind of get through the history of things quickly, and then I'll let you take it away from, the dad who actually went through it all. So, I was 16 when my mom and dad got divorced, and it was very messy, to say the least, and just a lot of kind of manipulation, to put it lightly. And so now fast forward, I'm 34, so it's been almost 20 years. We both obviously have a lot of perspective looking back, and I've unpacked a lot of it and everything, and but long story short, I had an estranged relationship with my dad. I was very angry, and a lot of that anger was honestly unwarranted, but I let that kind of get in the way of having a relationship with you. And here I am on the other end of it, and thankfully we've rekindled our relationship, and you are one of my heroes, and I love you very much. And this is, for me, as awesome that I'm doing my dad podcast, and I get to do it with my dad.
That's amazing.
But we lost like a decade or more, even like 12 years of having a close relationship. And a lot of that was the fallout of you didn't deserve that, and in hindsight, I didn't deserve that either. Right. And so there's a lot of pain there when you look back and realize that you lost, what could have been a lot of really good memories. And so we're going to make up for it moving forward, obviously going to hockey games and stuff. But that's kind of the situation at a high level. And, to just not get into all the details. That's kind of my perspective on it. So I'll turn it over to you, and, I can only imagine the immense challenge and frustration and pain that you felt, being essentially unfairly estranged from all 3 of your kids. And I guess just if to start, maybe can you just share some like high level advice that you would have for dads who are maybe just recently in that situation and kind of their world has just been turned upside down, and what are some things that they should focus on for now and then maybe for later, and we can just kind of have a free form discussion. And if you guys have questions, go ahead and we'll just kind of take it from there.
Yeah, my first advice would be try and, if there is any sort of reasonableness on both parties, try and work it out without having to pay high-priced lawyers. As much as you can, if you are able to dialogue with your soon-to-be ex, do it. Yeah. I was not afforded that option, and it was complete. It was restraining order, and which is unwarranted.
Completely.
I also had an expectation that the court system would somehow figure this out, and it would be sort of a 50-50 kind of thing. No, it was 99-1, and after many thousands of dollars and months of I felt it was worth fighting the restraining order, because I felt like this is totally unfair. Like, I'm not a criminal or anything. There hasn't been any violence. I don't own a weapon. It was just kind of over the top ridiculous, honestly. But that was a waste of time and money too, because judges the courts aren't really set up to really get into all the nitty gritty and sort things out. It's just side with the mother, pretty much, and she gets the kids, kind of a deal. And through slick lawyering on from the other side, and my lawyer not really fighting the battles for me like I thought he would. I mean, my parenting time got whittled down to very minimal.
It was like once every 2 weeks or something.
Yeah. And then all 3 kids together at a public place. So like Jesus. For 2 hours. So like, what do you do with a high schooler, a junior high son, and then an elementary school daughter? What do you do in 2 hours in a public place? You can pretty much just meet at Subway for a sandwich, and that's about it, right? So, it sucked for them, obviously. Anyway, my advice is don't rely on the court system. If you can work things out, work it out. Obviously, if kids aren't involved, it's a much easier deal, but with kids, it is a lot more difficult. The things I think I did well, as painful as it was, I didn't talk badly about their mother in front of them when I had them for that 2 hours. It was just about me spending time with them. It wasn't about me being bitter, me trying to plant seeds to turn them against their mother or anything like that. On the contrary, I always encourage them to have a good relationship with their mother, especially the youngest, George's sister. She had her run-in with her mom and towards the end of high school, and she did kind of seek me out at that point. And like I hadn't really talked to her for 2 years because my parenting time had got interfered with continually. But I still encouraged her. It's like I understand that your mother's difficult. That's why I'm not married to her anymore. But you still need to try and have a good relationship with her. That's best for you now and long term. To have a good relationship with both of us. I encouraged that. I didn't try and turn her against her mother. Now that I was the one that she wanted to be near, closer to. I guess the other thing too is when I did get some individual time with each of the kids, I didn't try and pump them for information about their siblings or anything else. I kept it one-on-one. This is our time, not try and feel like they were messengers in any way, right. of trying to, tell your mom this or tell whatever. Right. It was just, so you know, I guess that would be my advice.
Yeah, and I mean, if I can just add in, I recently read a book called Hero on Brandon's
Mhm.
recommendation by
Meg Meeker.
and she those 2 points that you just made about, don't badmouth as much as you may want to. Never do that. Badmouth your ex, and then like you also said, don't like use the kids as go-betweens or anything. And she's helped thousands and thousands of people who've been through that scenario, and in the scenarios where that happens, the kids are the ones who lose ultimately in the end. That's the hardest.
I think that's what you have to.
Yeah.
That's the main overall thing, is you have to think what's best for the child, not for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be painful for you no matter what.
Sure.
But
Absolutely.
and I just had to come to the realization, and it was different for all three of the kids. I mean, George reacted in anger initially. He wrote me a 3-page letter, and it was pretty hard hitting.
I wish I could rip that up.
Well, I didn't save it. I know.
Okay.
You're just acting out of emotion. You're put in a position.
I was like 18 when I
You're
read
a
it.
teenager. Yeah.
It was 16. It was
Okay. Yeah.
so, and his brother, he always, I always sensed that he wanted to have a relationship with me. His mother made it very difficult, and I think guilt tripped him for wanting to spend time with me. But I appreciate the fact that I didn't get that anger from him. I got that, Dad, I want to have a relationship with you. But with George's sister, the youngest, I mean, there were two-year periods early on, in like junior high, and then actually later, where I didn't see her at all. There was no communication for 2 years, and I guess I just realized at that time, I just have to trust God in this. My model from the Luke 15 in the Bible of the prodigal son, it broke the father's heart, but he let the son go. The son is essentially saying, Dad, you're dead to me. Give me my inheritance. I'm out of here. And he squandered it all away. And, it seems like in a very short time, and hit bottom, right? And said, even the servants in my father's house live better than this. I'm going to humble myself, go back. Had this big, long speech prepared, right? And, but it said that the father was looking for him, and saw him coming a long ways off, and ran to him to meet him, embraced him, restored him fully as a son. Didn't hash over, why did you do that? You have to earn my trust again. No, it's like fully restored. You were dead, now you're alive, and let's enjoy this and move forward. And I held on to that, and that was just what I just was convinced that this is the way it's got to be and will be. And you get a lot of people telling you, oh, just hang in there, just have faith, and it things will work out. That they'll know. And it's like, oh, I know that's really easy for you to say. Well, you know what? They were right. I think time alone doesn't heal things, but doing the right thing over time does.
Actions heal things.
Yeah. And so I actually had that moment. She reached out to me. I was remarried. I'd moved from Beaverton, Portland side to Vancouver, and she had some emotional things, and I think there was some manipulation too from her mother when she had the baby. And
my sister had a child. Her son is about the same age as my daughter, for context.
Anyway, and so when that happened, I think there was just a lot of emotions going on, and her mom turned her against me somehow in that scenario too. And but after a couple of years, she did seek me out, and so she did come over to my place, and I was out on my front doorstep looking for her coming down the road, because I wanted to go run to her. I don't know. To me, that I've held on to that, and I still get choked up every time I read that in Luke 15. But that's God. That's a picture of God's love, obviously, for us, and and
a dad's love.
And a dad's, yeah. But He's our heavenly Father. That's how Jesus told us to pray, our Father who art in heaven. And so that is, that's got to be our what we model our love off, and it's a giving love. It's not a selfish love. It's a what's best for you, not what I want kind of love. And I do believe that. So I was convinced this, especially with Janessa, that this could take 20 years. I was resigned to that, but I wasn't going to give up on that. And it took 2 years, so I'll take that. Over 20 years.
Yeah, that's so much better.
So God definitely was in it. I mean, it was a struggle, the biggest struggle of my life, the most painful thing emotionally, financially. It took its toll too.
Absolutely.
And but God saw me through it. He kept me healthy to be able to do my manual labor job through that, my window cleaning business, and provided, and through my music career as well. And I do believe that my parents' fervent prayers for me, saw me through that as well. And so, I mean, without that support, I mean, and that faith, to hang on, even though it looks bleak, I don't know how I would have made it through to the other side. And, God, right now, I mean, God has blessed me beyond measure, and a lot of that does have to do with my wife now, who does, she's
an awesome woman who is just
the love of Jesus
steady
is
as a
evident
rock
in her life, and it's just to be around someone who you would describe as joyful. There's very few people you would actually use that term to describe them as joyful.
100%.
And I think joy is really that only applies to Christians. If you're not a Christian, you can be happy, you can be very satisfied, very content. But joy is just, I mean, it's the fruit of the Spirit, of God's Spirit in you,
in spite of circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't mean everything's hunky dory.
Yeah.
Happiness.
Even if. Yeah, it's an even if.
Yeah. Happiness is based on what's happening. The good things are happening, so you're happy. You can have joy even in the midst of a difficult situation, or God's peace too. It's different than a worldly peace, which is just tolerate, two warring sides, they have a peace treaty. Well, they don't love each other. They're just tolerating each other. That's not really peace,
Right. Whereas
a godly kind of peace it can be in the midst of the storm, even. So
forgiveness and grace. I
had to deal with the forgiveness thing too. It's like, okay, unforgiveness is like, you're wanting them to drink the poison, but you're the one who's really drinking it.
Right.
And that's a process too. I mean, it's not just a one-time, okay, I forgive you.
Right.
I forgive you.
Right.
It's, you have to continue to do that. But, I mean, Jesus was able to say to the people crucifying him, Father, forgive them,
Right.
So, I mean.
So I have a quick question. So outside of giving and receiving grace, and learning forgiveness in the whole situation, what other things did you do that were kind of self-care things for you to get through besides leaning on God? Were there, like, did you go to the gym? Was there something that specifically helped you? Did you lean on family? I mean, because there's some guys that might not yet be saved, and I'd kind of want them to be encouraged or have coping mechanisms as well.
I mentioned the work that continued to be steady for me, being self-employed. I mean, I needed every dime. So I guess you could say I was kind of a workaholic, but I saw that as I'm God's providing this. I need to bring it in. I enjoy my work. so I'm thankful that God did keep me healthy and keep the work flowing at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was an escape. I think it was out of necessity, but I'm glad that I had something to do work-wise that kept me busy. And also, I had a day job and an evening weekend job, which I also enjoyed, my music, French horn work, in the Portland area, and that helped with extra income as well. So, no, I mean, I did go back to, like some guys buy a motorcycle and stuff, I took up disc golf, played a lot of disc golf, and
Nice.
Okay.
I was able to, I guess,
I got a buddy who's a pro.
spend
He's
some,
very good. Sean Portillo. He's awesome.
I loved it. I was never really that good, but I still loved going out.
You were pretty good.
And so
he's being modest.
I did that. I wasn't hitting the bars. I wasn't. I mean, I didn't enjoy being single. I always wanted to, find the right woman, but you got to be the right person, not just find the right person.
Right.
Yeah, so I played disc golf. Well, and I got a skateboard again. Thought I'd, I always wanted to. I never really had lived near a skate park, as when I was in junior high, teenager. And so I got myself a good skateboard, and there were a lot of skate parks in the Portland area. And so, I was a wannabe, but I tried there too, but it just gave me something to do that was pretty much free. Wasn't spending a lot of money on, an expensive hobby, or so I didn't have the money. So,
yeah,
but, yeah, I mean, and I did stay plugged in with church. I mean, although I kind of had a crisis with that too, where I think when the ship initially hit the sand with, getting slammed with the separation, divorce, and all that kind of stuff, restraining order, and not seeing my kids, the whole thing, I did kind of have okay, God, I'm going to be all in for you. I'm going to do everything I can, read my Bible, be involved in men's groups, just serve at the church however I can. And I didn't actually come out and say this or even really think it, but obviously I had this wrong expectation that if I did devote my life solely to God, that in 2 years he was going to put my life back together. So I'm like, okay, so who's really God here? I'm telling God how to do this thing and the time frame of it, and instead of really trusting him, and that actually led to some frustration with my faith. Yeah, in the midst of this. And so that was sort of a difficult thing I had to work through and realize that's not really faith. When I'm trying to tell God how to do his job, I got to be humble and wait, be patient.
Yeah. Right. It's so hard to not have to fall into that performance trap where your faith is works based. Well, if I do this, he's going to do that. It's like, no, it's just like the Father and Luke that you're talking about. No, he's open arms. He's like, look, just lean on me, man. I love you. And he's gentle and lowly and humble about it. And he's not vicious. And it's like, man, I suffered. I think suffering is such an important thing for our growth. And for me personally, when I suffered, I did the same exact thing. So it's refreshing to hear that other people's suffering grew them. So what other ways did suffering grow you?
I think you have to realize we don't. Some of our suffering is self-inflicted, are just dumb mistakes, right? Bad choices, and other people can be, I mean, obviously broken relationships are an example of that. Relationships can be the greatest source of joy and happiness. And I use those two together, which that's okay too, right? They're both,
Sure.
They're both good. But they can, relationships, obviously, anyone who's been divorced, they can be the greatest source of pain too. And so there's that. There's stuff you can do yourself. There's stuff others can do to you. But then there's just life. I mean, life is, I never promised you a rose garden, right? I mean, it's got to rain sometimes, and I mean, that's just life. I mean, I think I did actually try at times like, okay, I'm going to pretend that there is no God, and just, I'm not going to do anything stupid. I'm not going to be, wild and crazy and go off the deep end or anything, but I'm not going to go to church. I'm not going to read my Bible. I'm just going to live life the best I know how. Right. And, I tried that for a while and realized that, you know what, there's the same problems are still there. The same struggles are still there. So why not, if you have a loving father who wants to help you through it, it's like you saying, no, leave me alone. I can do this. I can tie my shoes. Well, when you can't, and so you do need that help and take it, So I think that was one of the big realizations that I, through the struggle, that I had to hit that, to give up my self-reliance.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to make a couple quick points just to make sure it's really clear, and then I think Justin had another question for you. But so first off, as your child, there was no abuse or any of that kind of stuff, and I'm not just saying that. We're way on the other end of this right now. I've got a lot of clarity about my past. I've done a lot of therapy. And so I have a very clear reflection on what really went down. So the fact that there was a restraining order in the first place is absolutely ridiculous. There was just a lot of, objectively speaking, looking back, the situation you were put in is beyond justifiable on any stretch, right? There should have been an equal parenting plan. It should have been a week to week type of thing or whatever, right? Some more balanced arrangement. So that's number one. I just wanted to be very clear that this isn't a situation where I was abused and there needed to be some restraining order and that kind of stuff. And then the second is for dads out there who, maybe you are in a similar situation like my dad, where your kids don't want to see you right now, or they think they don't want to see you, or maybe your spouse is just telling them all kinds of lies or whatever, right? And for whatever reason, they're not willing to meet with you right now. They're going to grow up and they're going to reflect on everything too. And hopefully they do their own work and kind of come to that conclusion quicker. But if you do what my dad said, where you're not adding, poison to the equation and kind of telling lies or whatever yourself and trying to manipulate, they're going to eventually grow up and recognize that. And that's what happened with me, is as I started processing through my own crap in my own life. And, I honestly came to a point where I started to feel this immense, it just dawned on me one day, wow, my dad wasn't able to have a relationship with me because of all that. And I just started feeling an immense sense of empathy. And that was kind of the impetus for when you came and visited me in Texas, 5-6 years ago now, that I was just I can't believe I've allowed all these years to go by where we don't have a relationship. And so, I said, Dad, I'm sorry that I've let this, wedge be between us. And I just want to have a relationship with you again. And I don't know when, and everyone's situation is different, but, I think if you do endure and you do keep the faith and do what you said, to remind yourself on focusing on what's best for your children, eventually there will be restoration. And it becomes very clear to a certain point, right, where the unfairness was and who was doing it, right? I don't need someone to tell that to me. And so I genuinely want to have relationship with you. You didn't have to convince me about it or anything, right? I came back to you saying, there was no, you didn't beg me to have a relationship again. I had come back because I had realized all of it on my own. So I just want to make that kind of maybe, maybe that's the last string of hope for someone out there. But I hope your kids kind of come to the same conclusion that I came to, and well, I guess really all three of us have now. So just want to put that out there. And then the last thing is, Dad, just thank you for having the courage to share an extremely painful subject with us and to be transparent about it. And I'm really proud of you as my dad, because it takes a lot of courage to come on here and talk about this. So I want to get that out early before I forgot to. So, all right, Justin, you had a question, I think.
It's not so much a question. It's I'm about to unpack a lot, so stay tuned with this. I've been through a divorce, and I'm actually going to talk about it for the first time without somebody in a therapy session. I'm gonna unveil everything to you guys. So, I'm kind of a silver tongue guy. I'm quick to be able to kind of finesse things, but this was something in my life that I was not able to finesse. I had to be a blunt instrument for the first time in my life, and it was a big change. And the reason I say that is divorce. Let me just go ahead and be real with anybody who's going through divorce. It is extremely terrible because what people don't realize about divorce is that the guys like me who were in a situation were in a toxic environment with a toxic human being who gaslit them, who did things that are horrible or did things to the children that are horrible. Thank God I didn't have children with this individual. It's hard for me to talk about because it's so frustrating because I let myself get in this situation. But then again, what people don't realize is when you are going through a divorce, before you go through that divorce, you are the loneliest you've ever felt. You are in a relationship and you feel lonely. And it's horrible. And I know that because I've lived it. And I can't imagine what Steve went through with kids because I love my son so much. And just thinking about like what he had to feel on the inside internally, it was a lot for me. I'm a Christian. I believe. And to touch on something you guys said, I found God in a way I never found him before. I was closer to God during my divorce because situationally, I had a lot going on, and my brother can vouch for that. Financially, it hurts. Get ready. It's not easy unless you can be amicable and agreeable and just figure it out, which I highly, highly, highly suggest. Like Steve said, talk like adults, deal with it like adults. Be very careful who you let into this situation. There's a girl that I was involved with after separation and cared very deeply for her and lost it because of this situation. And I struggled really hard with that and the threats towards that individual. It was an extremely trying time. So as a father now, I would have to say the one thing that I heard that resonated with me in this whole conversation was not just sticking to faith, but stick to who you are and try to be the guiding light for your kids. Because if you can be that calm, cool, collected person who is always just, I'm going to be relaxed, no matter how toxic, no matter how horrible the situation is. Not only does God want you to do that and be the better person, if you're the better person, you can feel a lot better about it moving forward because you're going to know that your kids understood or that will understand one day, like George has. This is my father. He actually stopped and like thought for me instead of himself and said, hey, look, I'm going to be the bigger person, regardless of how crappy this situation is. I'm gonna be the person who is level-headed, who's calm, who's cool and collected. And that is my best advice. Please, please, please do not let your emotions get the best of you because it is ugly. And I almost suggest that you take the gloves off because what else was stated was that fathers in the eye of the law are not seen in the right perspective. That is 100% true because men in general are not seen. And this may piss some people off, and I really don't care. Men are, in the eyes of the law, pretty small. Women always win. So if I have other advice, and I hate to give this advice, but be as ruthless as you can be when it comes to gathering information, getting what you need to build a case, because let me tell you, people are smart and they will do whatever they can to manipulate and use information against you. And I know this because it was used against me. And I was naive enough to think, oh, well, we're talking it out. No. Do yourself a favor, especially if children are involved. Get all the information you can gather. Keep every record. Keep everything, and keep others out of your life until you get this resolved. That's the best information I can give you. And then trusting God. And like Brandon said, there are outlets besides God. If you're not a believer, great. I became an absolute running junkie. I listened to music and I ran probably 3 miles a day, and I became a workoutaholic. That was what saved my mental state. It just helped me a lot. But I'm just telling you, and I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat it. It is the hardest thing you will ever do, 100%, because it's financially stressing. It's mentally taxing. It starts affecting you physically. You could be a person who gains weight or loses it, but I lost a ton of weight going through my divorce. It's a lot. And I'm sure Steve would want to respond to that, because there's a lot to unpack with a divorce. It's terrible.
I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. I like what you said. I really agree with that. Just be careful who you share with and what you share with, who you share with. I mean, you do need a safe person to share with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you can just stuff it all, but you got to keep things very close to the vest. I was too naive. I think, I think my honesty was used against me many, many times. I wish I would have just not been honest about that. I'm not encouraging lying, but I'm saying don't share information you don't have to, and make sure that it's with only a very trusted person or persons. When you are going through that, where the legal stuff still needs to be worked out.
Yeah.
This
is why, basically every book we've read so far on relationships is always like encouraging to not get to divorce, because it's like nuclear fallout.
It's brutal.
Doesn't clean up.
And he's absolutely right. The person who caused me the most grief and gave my ex-wife a case was someone who I considered a very close, very long-time friend, and I still don't have any respect for him to this day because of it.
Wow. That's too bad.
So all that being said, not all divorces have to be that toxic and that nuclear. There are plenty of friends,
100%.
relatives that I know that are divorced and were able to amicably figure it out, and may not be friends or, want to hang out with each other, but they understood that for the, especially for the sake of their children, that it wasn't worth having those kinds of toxic, horrible situations. And I'm so sorry that both of you went through that. Unfortunately, that does happen with a lot of divorces, but it doesn't have to be, it sounds like in your guys' cases, it was kind of inevitable, and you do have to be careful with that. But, for you guys out there that have a chance to have an amicable relationship with your ex-wife, do that. Every situation's a little bit different, 100%.
But I mean, like the term,
your ex-wife is not necessarily your enemy.
Yeah, the term is like co-parenting, right? It's
absolutely.
So like that if you are going to get divorced, that is obviously the goal, is to have a balanced and equitable like co-parenting plan for each other.
For the sake of the kids.
For the kids. Speaking of kids, mine is coming in. She's getting paper for arts and crafts. So
very nice.
I guess bedtime.
I 100% agree with that, because I have some friends who went through divorces, and it was nothing like what I went through. But I always tell people, err on the side of caution, hire an amazing lawyer. It's worth the money, I promise you. And make sure that you understand.
You feel the opposite, right?
Expect the worst.
I pay $250 an hour for my guy, and he didn't do squat. So
I don't know.
You never know till you're in it too far. At least I didn't.
Yeah.
Till I was in it.
Yeah.
Too
No, I get that. I just say expect the worst and hope for the best, because it's a crap situation any way you shoot it. Really is. There's no good way around it. It doesn't feel good. You feel guilt about it, especially if you have a religious background like I do, and I'm the only male in my family and my generation of all my three brothers, of all four of us. that is divorced. It's not easy, man. It weighs heavily on you, and the best thing to do is have friends or people that you can trust, that you can unload on. And I'll actually give kudos to George. George was a very, very great guiding light for me through this. Through the whole entire relationship, George was always that person. If I needed something or I needed to unload something, I could talk to George. And Dustin was there as well, just not in that same sense. He was there more as, a friend that would, get me in trouble and make me laugh. But
with hurricane jokes.
Yeah, horrible jokes, inappropriate timing. That's just who we are. But I would say surround yourself with the people you know and love, that you truly 100% know you can trust, because it just friends, don't trust friends. Trust the people you love, because the people you love will always be there for you, and they're always going to have your back. Like Brandon and my family, they were 100% behind me. Harold, the one I went and saw get married, he and my father were the two that really had conversations with me that led me to my decision to better my life for myself and not just deal with it. And it's not an easy decision to make, but I would also give this last piece of advice before I let you guys take over. Be very, 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 very cognizant and cautious of who you choose, because you need to know how they react in terrible situations and in situations once they know that they are locked in and legally with you, because things can change very, very quickly. That's my only piece of advice. Just know this person 100%.
I think one of the things that I would say too, just with any trauma or pain, if you're needing somebody to speak with, absolutely seek therapy. It's such a stigmatized thing, but therapy is a professional that has done this with hundreds and thousands of people that can take you through your pain and your trauma in an intelligent, safe way so that you process your emotions correctly. Because if you don't and you stuff it down, that and the bitterness and the unforgiveness will just absolutely eat you alive. So I would suggest, as with any pain, absolutely seek a therapist in situations like that. It's such an important thing, because men think they have nobody to turn to, and they've been taught their whole lives, you can't cry, you can't do this, you got to stuff it down and be a man. And it's like, no, go seek somebody who can help you emotionally sift through the stuff properly. So I would recommend a therapist personally. I've never been through a divorce, but I've been through plenty enough trauma to tell you that therapists, they work. They're legitimate. So
I would 100% agree. Excuse me. I sought therapy, and it was awesome. It really helped me out a lot. 100% suggest that. And don't let other people tell you that it's not something you should do, just because, like Brandon said, there's a stigma around it. Who gives a crap? At that point, you really have nothing to lose. Honestly, you don't.
Yeah. Well, and if you go to one and you don't like them, just go find another one.
That's it.
Yeah.
There's
they
so
might
many
be
options.
telling you what you need to hear instead of what you want to hear, though.
That too, 100%.
I think at some point, hopefully sooner than later, you'll realize, I mean, I don't think, well, you have to look at it maturely and think, okay, why did this marriage not work?
Mm-hmm.
Was it really 100% their fault? Was I contributing in some way? I think we can all, even if it's a 99-1, that there was something that I need to learn, 100% there is something you need to learn from this, even if that's just to, move slower and, check things out before you fully commit or something like that. There's and chances are there's more to that. There are some life lessons to learn about yourself through it, and that's not your first reaction. Your first reaction is just survival, to get through the trauma.
Yeah.
But it is helpful to have, a lot of churches have it like a divorce care kind of stuff too, where you're going to get some good advice. It's not going to be one-on-one counseling, but it would be also from a biblical perspective, and So what are healthy relationships really all about, and what is real love all about, and not the world's version, and working through things like forgiveness too, because that can continue to eat away at you even when you're legally free from
It's a poison.
that. Yeah. And so yeah, I agree. You gotta have some form, either qualified support group, or if you can afford it and have time, an individual counselor at that. But again, you've got to you have to be man enough to face what your mistakes in that too, and with the goal of not repeating that.
Yeah. And if you got half a heart, you're gonna feel guilt about the situation. And like you said, that's actually a really good point. I mean, you're gonna realize, you're gonna take a look internally and be like, I did these things. That's not who I am. That's not my character. But you're going to learn from them 100%. And I think for me personally, it was how I reacted to toxicity, how I let myself react, how I let myself lose control and get frustrated and angry and upset enough that I would raise my voice or my tone, because that's the number one thing I hate people doing to me, is raising their tone or voice with me. And it's something in my current marriage that, like, I've set that bar. I'm like, please don't ever raise your tone or voice with me, because it's something that is traumatic to me. It is something that I do not like. It does still bother me, even to this day. And I'm still dealing with that, but it's something that, like he said, like Steve said, these are things you look internally and you're like, I have these problems. These are my problems. They're not on anyone else. I'm choosing to react this way. I'm choosing to be this person, or I'm choosing to act in this, direction. So I would say use it in a smart way, because I mean, you can grow so much. Like Brandon was saying, how much do you grow through trauma? Failure is, like Steve Harvey said, failure is the best thing you can do, because you do learn so much from it. And you learn what you want, and you learn what you don't want. And that's one thing I will say that is good about divorce. You know what you will never put up with again. And you know what you are going to look for in other individuals. So there's a silver lining to everything, and positivity definitely helps on the end side of things, because there is hope. Funny story. My dad joked, because I was in medical sales. He's like, you're going to marry a doctor, and guess what? I married a doctor. No jokes, but I ended up finding the love of my life, in a situation I didn't expect at a time I did not expect. I was not thinking anything of, looking for a serious relationship. And then I met Ainsley, my wife, and she blew me away, and there's always hope. And there's always, like Steve said, there's somebody out there that can really alleviate the pain for you, and can kind of bring you back to where you need to be. And my suggestion would be, do that yourself. That way you can love that person fully. But at the same time, it's nice to have somebody in your corner when you're dealing with trauma, because as long as you deal with it in a healthy way and you actually deal with it, you can have, a great relationship moving forward. So there's hope for everybody. Don't let this be something that you think is just the end all be all, because you're not going to see your kids ever again. You're not in the same relationship you were in, or you're not comfortable. Be uncomfortable. Being uncomfortable is great, because it means you're growing. Accept that. Be excited about the fact that there's new endeavors ahead of you, and that there's a new path for you to take, that, whether you believe in God or not, there's something that he's provided, or that, you yourself, if in your own mind, has provided. So just take that and run with it, and don't let the negativity bring you down, because that's something that can happen very quickly in a divorce. That's just my 2 cents.
Well, the stakes are high too, right? Because it's not just your life that is at risk there, right? The rest of your life, the damage from it can continue on, right, to your children, and then potentially their children. So like, you have a chance to kind of bring it back away from that decline, if you can endure. So I'm glad you did. Thank you. not let it just keep continuing. So
Praise God.
Makes sense.
yeah.
And, for all you dads out there that have made mistakes, and maybe the divorce was deserved, maybe you made a mistake and you know it, you can come back from that too, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be, maybe your wife is right and you were wrong, right? And if you can come to accept that and admit, okay, there were some mistakes on my end, become a better person for that. Your kids will appreciate that. I apologize to my son 3 times a day. He'll fall and I wasn't watching him.
Cookie. No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I know that was supposed to be your cookie and I ate it and I'm fat now. I'm so sorry. Now I can't run after you because I've gained the weight. So I think a lot of us as dads, maybe we're taught that you can't make mistakes and that you have to look perfect in your children's eyes. And I've learned that is the worst thing to do, because then your child won't know how to apologize and how to recognize that it's okay to make mistakes. Our job as humans is to make mistakes and to learn from them and to try to, to be better. And so, if you can come back from that and, teach your kids that, I made that mistake. This is what happened. And it's okay. Your kids will forgive you for that. I've seen that time and again with relatives, with friends, where, they were finally able, maybe after months or years to look at it from a different perspective and say, hey, you know what, this was on me. I really didn't think it was. And now that I've finally had the, some hindsight, I realized I made a mistake. And that I know for me is one of the best feelings in my marriage, when I'm so angry and I go, I did the dishes perfectly. What is wrong with you? And then a few months into it, I look at it and I go, I really didn't load that dishwasher that well. I can kind of see my wife was a little bit irritated. Let me go apologize to her.
I did the dishes, but I did nothing else.
Yeah, that's all I did. I had the day off, and that's all I did was the dishes. I didn't even do them that well. So, to be able to recognize, I made that mistake, and to give that up and say, hey, I'm sorry about that for your kids, your wife, for any of that. That's a great feeling, and that's a huge load and burden, off of me when I'm able to do that. And as guys, it is so hard for us to apologize. It is, it's just one of those things where you don't want to do it, right? You say, I'm right, and when it violates your personal narrative. Quick bit of psychology that's really interesting. Gamblers, they've done fMRI studies on their brains, and it shows that they're actually happier when they're losing money than when they're winning. It's really interesting, and the reason is it violates their personal narrative of how the world is supposed to be. So if I'm a gambler compulsively and I go to the casino and I lose, that makes me feel right and vindicated, because the casino's out to get me. Everything's unfair and I'm correct. And so even though I lost a bunch of money and maybe, it's a bad situation, I'm right. And that feels really good to be right. And then when they win, they feel terrible because, well, maybe the casino doesn't hate me and the world isn't unfair. And I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. So it makes them angry and they're actually less happy than when they lose. So don't be that compulsive gambler. Don't be that loser. Let it go. Forgive, and admit those mistakes, and you'll be much happier.
Yeah, stuff the self-deception and the pride too.
Yeah,
a lot of people self-deceive, and if everybody in the room's telling you you've done something, you might want to actually look at yourself and make sure you haven't done something. But a lot of people, they'll be so prideful. Nope, it's not me. It's them. It's them. It's them. It's like, no, own your own stuff. There's a book Jocko Willink has written, Extreme Ownership. He talks about just owning it, even if you're not the person that directly did it. If you had some kind of leadership role or responsibility role in it, you got to own it somehow.
I'm so guilty of that. Yeah.
Don't pass the buck.
We're all guilty of it.
Yep.
I mean,
the whole "I just work here, man" or whatever.
Yeah.
So I want to bring some hope to some of the fathers that may be going through divorce. So Steve, I'm going to ask you a question, and it's something you're probably going to have to take a minute to think about. What is a absolute positive that you're thankful that you went through what you went through that brought you to a place of peace or happiness, or that has brought something positive to you through this situation?
I mean, I got to give God credit. I really feel he was working behind the scenes. Even he's, the sun still shines even on a cloudy day. It's just you can't see it because of the clouds, but it's still there. It's still there. And even when I had difficulty seeing it, I now see later that, you know, he was working, he was orchestrating things, he was seeing me through this, giving me the courage for each day. And I mean, yeah, I mean, George mentioned it earlier. I mean, there was a time when I was estranged from all three of my children, basically, and didn't have a chance to really have relationship with them, and didn't even know when that was going to happen, right? And to now be at a point where I do have relationship with them and the grandkids now too. You know,
There you go.
I mean, you know, you plant seeds in life, and you know, it takes time for them to grow, you know, and produce the fruit. And it's not a microwave, it's a crock pot, you know. And so yeah, I mean, I got to give God all the credit, you know. But right now I'm just tremendously blessed, you know. And I guess having been in a not good marriage, to be in a really, you know, to be married to just an amazing woman now, that just affirms me in every way that I need, you know, the way I'm wired, that, you know, I love verbal affirmation and I get it, you know, and blessed in pretty much every other way, you know, that finances restored, and just, you know, but mostly it's just the relationships that have been restored, that, you know, it's just, I at one point didn't know if that would ever happen. It certainly wasn't a guarantee, you know. And so now I appreciate that so much more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm blessed.
That is so awesome to hear.
Yeah.
I think that's, for me, like, I want to emphasize how important it is for marriage counseling and to be equally yoked. The Bible says to be equally yoked with your partner, and they, you know, iron sharpens iron kind of concept. You know, if iron hits
work
wood,
out.
if iron hits wood, it blunts, it dulls.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if it hits iron, it sharpens. And so, when me and my wife, we took 12 years, maybe 15 before we got married. We waited till we were out of college, of course, high school sweethearts, whole 9 yards. But like, you know, we looked at everything from both of our faults, and we made sure that we were the right people for each other, so that we didn't have to face that terrible, nasty thing that, you know, 50% of all marriages deal with, which is divorce or separation. So, but yeah, equally yoked is a great thing to look for when you're picking a partner for you guys that are looking to get married. So.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to what you had just said, Dad, where you know, what's better now through the experience, but is the concept of legacy, right? And this is something as men that matters to us, and it's not necessarily how many kids you have, but it's you know, what impact are you going to have on your children or those around you, you know, once you're gone. But you know, through this, you have the opportunity to still maintain a legacy being proud of, or restoring it to that point, by, you know, keeping faith and enduring, and, you know, fighting to reestablish relationship if it's been broken. You know, that will have legacy effect for future generations even, right? So in the midst of it, that's probably really hard to even consider, right? But you know, I am proud of where, you know, things are now, and you know, I always will be proud of that now. And so it's not just your story anymore, really, right? It'll affect me, and it'll affect Raylan, right? And you know, that legacy won't just stop abruptly because you die or something. That, you know, that will have an impact far beyond that. So you know, maybe that's a little thing out there that might get you a little bit of fire in the belly if you're kind of in the midst of a difficult situation like that too. But And again, Dustin, you brought it up earlier. Maybe they don't all have to be this way, right? Definitely work out something amicably. But if it is difficult and you're really struggling, that long-term battle and struggle is worth it. It may take a long time, but it is worth it.
100%.
So I got a question for Steve. What is it like to be a grandfather in comparison to being a father? Because I look kind of towards my future and think about my kids having kids, and I don't know, it's just such a cool thought process, but like you're actually experiencing it. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
I have to interject before you answer. Raylan loves Grandpa Steve. And,
yeah.
normally
smart
she's
girl.
all about Dad, and she wants to do everything with me. When he's here, I am chopped liver. She
I love it.
she asks all the time when
Give you a
we
little gut check
again and stuff. So
I'll be honest with you, that the grandparenting aspect of my marriage now, because my wife, she's 5 years younger than me, but she had 2 grandkids before I had any. And I guess it's something we didn't really discuss too much. We just, and now we have a total of 10,
Wow.
Yeah, from 14 down to 1.
Jeez.
And honestly, it's been the biggest struggle of my now marriage is our grandparenting styles. But I've just realized that, I got to be me. They'll appreciate me for my qualities, and they'll appreciate her for her qualities. She's a giver. She's a spoiler, and I'm kind of the one that they need to. There are some. If you make a mess, clean it up.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the
guardrails.
The Godfather.
So I'm having to be in that position because my wife, I'm very surprised that she is so lenient with them. And so I'm having to learn too, because in my grandparents, when I was growing up, so my experience with grandparents is they live in another state. I see them at the house, for Christmas or Thanksgiving, probably not both. I even lived overseas as a kid for a while, so I only saw them like every other year for a couple of weeks, at one point. So I wasn't used to my situation now, where all of them except Raylan, unfortunately, live close enough by that they will actually pop in for dinner. And awesome. If that's a day where I just had a long day at work and I've got to get up early and do it all over again the next day, I don't necessarily want the loud and the messes and the all that goes with it. But there's a verse in Proverbs that says, if there's no ox, the stable is clean.
Wow.
In other words, you want an ox because that's how you're gonna, tread the grain or pull your yoke or your plow in the field in order for you to produce what you need. But there's going to be poop. There's going to be messes, right? Yeah. And so I've had to learn that. So I think finally I do better one-on-one with the grandkids than trying to appease the whole group, because then there's the sibling rivalry dynamic, and I don't do well with policing that stuff. My wife's an educator. She works with kids. She knows how to redirect and all that. I can't. I'm just kind of a straight shooter, and so so I have a lot to learn as a grandfather. But I mean,
you have a lot of step grandchildren too, right? So it's more than you're probably ever expecting to have at any one point,
right. And so anyway, they're all their own person, and it's to try and lump them together or whatever, or compare them. Oh, you're just like Uncle Chris was, or whatever. It's like don't brand them. They're and my wife tends to do this. It's like, oh yeah, It's like, no, they're their own little person, and we got to treat them as such. And anyway, it's. I'm still learning that. I'm still learning how to be a good grandfather. But I mean, Raylan's amazing. and just to have the one-on-one time with her, and so that I think that's where I shine as a grandfather, just being able to do that. But I don't know, what was the question? I can't remember now. But
I was just saying, how is being a grandfather different from being a father?
Yeah, I mean, perspective-wise too, it's you realize that when George is talking about legacy, and I don't think in those terms necessarily, but I for me personally, but I think is part of what God's doing in His kingdom. Planting seeds. My parents planted seeds in me that took a while to actually grow and mature, and I'm still growing, I hope, but now I see, 100 years from now, nobody's going to care that I played French horn in the Portland Opera or I had a window cleaning business. They're going to, the only thing that's going to last is the lives I've invested in, And so it is a high calling, and it starts with praying for them, and then, when you're with them, it's enjoy every moment,
Beautiful.
So,
and be present.
Be present, yeah. Hey, what a good concept.
Yeah.
I wish I had a mug that said that.
Yeah.
He's the Godfather, Steve.
Yeah,
he says, clean your shit up.
I love so much watching her be so excited to see you. I mean, it gives me joy. Like I benefit from all this happiness and fulfillment, and I don't, right? Grandpa Steve, I want to go play this, right? And like I feel good about so you have the opportunity, right, to just it spills over to so many other people, right? If you are invested in that relationship as a grandparent, and take it seriously, because me and Whitney too, we absolutely love coming to visit you, and it's always it feels restorative in a way that it's like a little haven when we're with you guys up in Washington, and Raylan is just so thrilled, and so that there's just a lot of your cup overflows, right, is the expression. So not to answer Brand's question, because I'm not a grandparent, but as collateral, you being a grandparent, it even impacts me in a lot of really great ways. So it's just
have me back in about 3 years, where a couple of them are teenagers, and then ask me how I'm doing.
Well, one of the grandchildren, not to go off on a total tangent here, but he's how old now? Like 14?
14, yeah.
And he's like, what, 6?
He just turned 14. He can dunk a basketball.
He's like 50 pounds bigger than me, and
he's 6'3".
That's not hard.
Taller.
Doesn't have my genes.
He's an absolute monster. So I mean, he's a man with a kid's face. It's crazy.
That's crazy.
So there's a very wide cast of characters at the Hayworth home up in the Northwest. So
nice.
Yeah. Sorry, we're going off in the weeds now, but
Dustin will never be a grandfather because he lives in Never Never Land, because he's Captain Hook.
I think you're going a little too heavy on that, Justin.
I'm sorry.
I smell what you're stepping in, though. Yeah. I see it. Especially when he smiles so that big.
Yeah, you're talking about the one, right?
I freaking love
I'm
it.
pretty sure
he's handsome. We can't deny that. I just got to give him hell some
He's
way.
trying to give you a compliment.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say that Dustin is a lot bigger than Dustin Hoffman, though, right?
Well, I wasn't thinking Dustin Hoffman. I was thinking like Hugh Jackman times like 2 or 3. I mean, he's big like that. So I was gonna give the guy some credit, but whatever. Dustin Hoffman. Yikes. Not the same.
You're talking
I'd like to bet $100. Do my Rain Man impression.
Grow up, Peter Pan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. No, yeah. I a lot of guys think about legacy, and that's something you also should think about. If we're going back to the topic of divorce, being the bigger, better person, and doing the things that are harder to do, and choosing the route that is hardest, is what makes you exceptional. Diamonds can't be made without pressure. So just keep that in mind. Just tough it out, because, one of the people that kept resonating in my head when I was going through a divorce was, God, it's the craziest thing, David Goggins. I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff he says, but David is a hardcore dude. And I actually, Dustin, you sent me a video recently. It showed Elon Musk and a bunch of like famous people landing on Mars, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we're the first people on Mars. We're about to take our first step." And then David Goggins runs up and he's like, "I just ran 30,000 or 30 million miles, man." Yeah, that's David Goggins, because he's like, "Don't be a little bitch." Excuse my language, but yeah, it's just, at the end of the day, you've got to take everything with a grain of salt. You have to stay humble and just kind of deal with it in your own way. People can give you all the advice in the world, but at the end of the day, you have to stick true to who you are and try to just continue to be who you are as a father, because situations like this, it's easy to lose who you are. It's easy to show yourself as somebody else to your kids. Be that guy that they know you are. Like Steve, he stayed the same amazing person he was, had faith, and continued to show up. That's all you can do. Even if the situation's absolute garbage and there's nothing you can do and it puts you in the worst light, as long as you're consistent and you are a good person, you're going to come out on top. And that's just what I want some of these dads to understand, is that no matter how crappy, and I know we've reiterated on the fact that it's sucky going through a divorce, you're going to be okay. And so are your kids, as long as you continue to try to be a present father. Try to be there. Try to always do what is right. Show your kids, not through words. Don't promise them the world. Just show them the world, because action speaks so much louder than words. And
Absolutely.
These manipulators and these people who are going to take advantage of you in situations, they can talk all they want, but unless they're walking the walk, it's different.
Right. It's not what's taught, it's what's caught.
I actually haven't heard that before.
Really?
Yeah.
I just made that up.
I love it. Father and son duo.
He said,
Steve, welcome to the podcast. No.
Yeah.
George, you've been replaced.
I've been replaced. Okay. Dustin said amazing person. You're a lot more amazing now since you just recently played with the Who. Yeah.
I agree.
You're a lot cooler now. So I totally forgot to let you lead with that at the beginning about. Yeah. So
half the population doesn't know the Who.
Well, yeah. So let's educate it right here. So yeah, exactly. Tell them about the. Yeah, it was like, what, 2 weeks ago or a week ago?
Yeah, it was October 20th. They were playing at the big arena in Portland, and I was just part of the pickup band that got hired to back them up. So it was a lot of fun.
And then you were like 2 days later getting your.
Yeah. So I'm getting my yearly eye checkup, and the technician, young lady, I think she said she was 23. Which seems really young to me now that I'm almost 60. But anyway, really she, we go from machine to machine, and she was really good at her job, and very talkative and stuff. And she, asked me, they must be on my chart or something, that I play horn, French horn. And I don't know anybody who plays French horn. And so what kind of things do you do? And I said, well, as a matter of fact, I just played for the Who a couple nights ago. And she was like, what? What's that? Oh, okay.
So yeah,
I guess I'm not as cool as I thought.
You were thinking you're like, I'm normally kind of humble about this, but I've got this real great one now that it just totally didn't land. And,
yeah. So anyway, but
I guess if you said Billie Eilish, she'd have been like, oh my god.
So.
Yeah, if he said he played with Cardi B, they'd be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
that's what we're having the podcast, so that kids start, growing up with better, principles, so they'll appreciate better music. That's really one of the outcomes that we're trying to accomplish. But
if he'd have said Metallica, and when I was a kid, I would have lost it.
Yeah,
for
so
sure. Or Black Sabbath.
Any other final questions from you guys for my dad here?
Well, I feel like I'm on the spot.
You are on the spot.
Yeah.
Kind
Doing
of
it
are.
live, man.
I think closing thoughts and then talk a little bit about the next episode.
Justin, do you have any questions?
As a Green Bay Packers fan, how do you feel like you can give back to the world for your mistakes as a Packer fan? Is there
We beat the Cowboys last
Is there something you could do?
Hey.
I hate it. I was so mad.
Keep it up, George.
We may be bad, but we still beat the Cowboys.
Keep it up.
Right with the world.
Keep it up, bro.
Yeah, you walked into that one, man.
So much pain.
The pain is real, dude.
Thanks for that, Dustin. Thanks.
So, Steve, what's it like having a daughter named George?
Hey, in today's day and age, that's
He might
Oh,
he might
yeah.
do many things, but
Good
he's
point.
not a girl. So.
yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
man.
I'm gonna throw up. I'll be back.
All righty. Well, I guess to start the closing thoughts again, Dad, thank you so much for one, being willing to do this, and then having the courage to be very candid about a very difficult and painful thing. And we try to keep it very honest here on this podcast and just be genuine. And I think that will resonate with people who find this episode, and especially if they're in a similar situation. Hopefully this is a gasp of air when they feel like they've been drowning. And so we're thankful as a podcast, and then I'm also thankful as your son for you committing and enduring through, and in all the growth and both in your spiritual walk and then in your life, and that I have a great example to work through any challenges that I face to live by. So thank you.
Love you, son.
I love you too.
And guys, thanks for having me on. It's
Yeah.
been a real honor, and
Thanks,
hopefully
Steve.
something
Yeah,
I said
been
helps
awesome.
somebody at some point down the road.
Yeah.
You
Y'all's
guys really-
relationship's beautiful.
Really respect what you guys are doing. Guys are not. This kind of goes against our natural thing of just isolating and be doing our own thing. You guys coming together and talking about life, and doing life together. That's amazing. So I'm proud of all of you guys.
Thanks.
Well, thanks.
I'd say for my closing thoughts, most important thing is to seek God's love, mercy, grace, forgiveness, all the good things. And he makes no mistakes. So just lean on him. And I want to leave you guys with a quote. I saw a picture of a Roman soldier holding a shield up against a bunch of arrows, and his arms just shattered and broken like he's plaster. And it said, "There's nothing stronger than a broken man who has rebuilt himself." And so for the guys who are falling apart and who are breaking into pieces, just realize when you rebuild yourself that you will be stronger than anybody else in the world, because you've been through the worst. So just hang in there.
Absolutely. I'd have to say my closing thoughts are this. Brandon, you failed me. Logan, I love you. I gotta give my kid brother some serious credit, all joking aside, for Brandon. Him being not present. Just kidding. Obviously that's a joke. You're present. Logan, my kid brother, said this to me, and I'll never forget to the day I die. When I was going through my divorce and I was really struggling, I said I was a runner. He said, Justin, the one thing I can tell you is, when we have the traumas we have in life, he goes, know that I love you, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I took that so literally. I got on a treadmill and I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life, because I saw confidence in myself. It gave me time to reflect. I listened to amazing music that was mine. I kept running, Forrest Gump. It was seriously, like, it just gives you hope, because, people tell you, they say, there's a guy and a horse. There's a story about a horse and a man, and the guy's talking to the horse, and he's like, well, how do I get to where this destination is? And the horse asks him, he says, well, you can you can see your next step, can't you? And he says, yeah. He said, well, just keep taking steps. Keep taking one step after the next. And that's all you can do. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. And that's the best advice I was given. Just keep taking step after step and realizing that each step you realize you're okay and that you're going to be okay. That's what I want to end on.
Dustin, closing thoughts?
Sounds good. Steve, great to meet you. I'm so happy to see that you guys are best friends, and it's just awesome to see you two together. And hopefully we'll get to meet in person one day and hang out. Be fun.
Love
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. We'll have to make we'll have to get like a present father's reunion thing set up. And
a convention in Nashville.
Yeah. Oh, it can be anywhere, but yeah, we'll have to find a location to make that happen. That'd be pretty cool.
I like it.
All righty.
Hold on. Sorry.
Okay.
He's not Scuba Steve. He's Tuba Steve.
If I had a tomato, I would throw it at you.
Well,
multiple times.
That joke of the day
is now known.
Wow. It's very punny, my friend. Jeez.
All right, George, please take us away. Please take us away.
Yeah. Wayne insult my dad with that.
It wasn't an insult. I love your dad. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
No offense taken.
He's definitely the better musician of the two of us by far.
I'd agree.
Yeah. No, that's definitely not a question. Okay, so for our next episode, we will be having it's Brandon's guest, who is, I think his name is John, and
John Michael.
He runs a program called the Family Captain. Is that what you said?
Yep, the Family Captain.
Yeah, we'll have him as our guest, and we will be using the book Endurance as the basis of that conversation, focused on leadership, and using that example of through extreme trial and tribulation, how the different members of the crew kind of rose to the challenge and maintained their leadership, and ultimately got them all through alive, right? And so, Brandon, tell us a little bit about your guest. And we're still working out the scheduling, so it's kind of TBD in terms of the date yet, but it will be coming soon.
So basically, John Michael, he pastors a church, but he's also running basically a coach program called the Family Captain, where he teaches men to be on fire with their women. That God gave us sex as a blessing, and that if you lead your family right, your sex life will be great. And he helps incorporate that into your marriage concept. But he has some really beautiful things about different legs of leadership and how to lead your ship, as the captain. And so there's a lot of great points there. And I'm super excited to have him on. He's a great dude. Very faith and Christian based leadership program that he runs, and it's a beautiful thing. And he has some really cool stuff that he does with his kids that he posts about, and I think we could talk about that a little bit too if he's interested. So, but yeah, it's going to be a great episode. The book, true story, absolutely incredible, probably one of the coolest stories you'll ever read. So I definitely encourage our listeners to please read it. It just really shows you how far the human person can endure things if they have good leadership and they keep going after things that they're set for. So once again, thanks everybody. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Steve. Again, we just appreciate you being on. It was wonderful. So
thanks so much.
Yeah,
you guys are great.
All right, fellas.
All right. Well, it looks like Justin crashed or so. I was wondering why he kept making that face. I think he froze. So Endurance is the name of the book. I forget the author's name, but it's literally just Endurance. So if you find it, and it's about the story about Shackleton's expedition. Unbelievable. I mean, the whole time through it, as I was reading it, I was like, oh, it can't get worse for him. It just kept getting worse over and over and over, and they just still found a way through, and it's just an incredible feat of survival, really. But yeah, so all right, guys, that's gonna do it for tonight. Stay tuned for the next episode about endurance and leadership. And again, Dad, thank you. This was awesome. And take care, everyone. That'll do it.
Yep.
So see ya.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Present Fathers Podcast. Please be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you can know when we go live next. Also be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and our Discord channel. It's our desire to grow this fathership together and support dads out there. If you think this channel would be beneficial to someone you know, please share it with them. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.